Good day, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. In a move long awaited by many members of the Catholic Church in Latin America, Pope Francis has signed a decree declaring El Salvador's late Monsignor Oscar Arnulfo Romero a martyr. The declaration of martyrdom now paves the way towards the beatification of the late Monsignor. Achieving beatification for Romero has been a long-standing goal of Salvadorian social movements and civil society in general. Beatification is one step beneath sainthood. And taking a look now at the life of Oscar Romero, he was born in San Miguel, El Salvador, and became Archbishop in 1977. Monsignor Romero actively opposed the state's persecution of the church. During the Salvadorian Civil War, the church supported the poor. He used his homilies in Mass to deliver powerful political messages against the inequality and injustice that underpinned El Salvador's internal conflict. He was killed while delivering Mass in 1980 by a sergeant of the country's extinct National Guard. The National Guard was tied to right-wing death squads. Relatives of the missing 43 students from Ayotzinapa, Mexico, have taken their case to the United Nations in Geneva. The relatives, together with non-governmental organizations, brought their case before the UN's Forced Disappearance Committee. They want the body to urge the Mexican government not to close the case. Our correspondent Clayton Kahn has more.
Today, the United Nations Commission on Enforced Disappearances in Geneva will conclude a two-day evaluation of the situation of Mexico. Yesterday, both the Mexican government and civil organizations presented conflicting reports on how the Mexican government is tackling the situation. Now, while the Mexican authorities declared that the administration of Enrique Peña Nieto has proposed legislative measures to tackle enforced disappearances and corruption, civil organizations countered, explaining that the proposals are simply the further militarization of the country. They view the security strategy as one of the roots that spawns corruption and that has led to the practice of enforced disappearances. Also, a commission of parents of the disappeared Ayotzinapa students were present, demanding justice and clarification from Mexican authorities in the case of the 43 missing students. They're seeking that the UN's commission makes a declaration on the case. Mexico has only had 6 guilty verdicts of enforced disappearances, which many call surprising, with the official number of disappearances since 2006 being above 23,000. This is Clayton Kahn reporting for teleSUR here in Mexico City.
And thanks to Clayton, Argentinian President Cristina Fernandez has said that relations with China are a strategic priority for her government. The president was speaking at a meeting with 30 Chinese business leaders on the first full day of her visit to Beijing. On Wednesday, Fernandez is due to meet her Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. For more now, we go to our correspondent Leo Poblete in Buenos Aires.
Accompanied not only by her fellow cabinet members, but also 100 entrepreneurs from Argentina. The Argentine head of state, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, is on day one of her official state visit to the People's Republic of China. President Cristina Fernández said to local CEOs that Argentina's integral strategic alliance with Beijing is not a policy of the political party that she represents, but more so it is a public policy of the Argentine Republic in its entirety. Politics is always above the economy, she said, and made clear that she was not only referring to political parties, but more so to a world that operates on the basis of geopolitical issues and not only market considerations. The president underlined the agreement signed shortly ago between YPF and the Chinese oil corporation Sinopec to develop both conventional and non-conventional oil and gas, and to keep advancing in the field of nuclear energy, reiterating that Argentina is a world leader in the peaceful usage of nuclear energy. Cristina Fernández explained to the executives of the Chinese leading companies that the alliance is not merely a commercial one, and stressed that she has arrived in Beijing to reaffirm it. She's there for another 2 days, and we'll obviously keep you up to date here on teleSUR. Back to you in Caracas.
And thanks to Leo. In a new effort to stop economic sabotage, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has announced the launch of a government mission called Operation Sucre. The effort will focus on taking control of stores and businesses that are engaging in speculation and economic sabotage in order to destabilize the country. Now, the new initiative has been named in honor of the independence hero Antonio José de Sucre. On Monday, President Maduro already announced the occupation of one such retail chain.
I have given specific orders to our Security and Food Sovereignty Vice President to occupy these chain stores in accordance with the laws of the Constitution. The owners of this company should be detained, and there should be an investigation owing to their involvement in illegal food hoarding.
And also in Venezuela, the Maduro government has rejected a new round of visa restrictions imposed by the United States. In an official statement, the Venezuelan government says that, quote, Venezuela rejects the continuation of aggressions by the government of the United States of America, which is working against a respectful dialogue. In contrast, it is opting for a continual violation of the principles of national sovereignty as well as those of non-interference in the internal affairs of a nation, end quote. Prospects for peace in Colombia continue to grow as the government and FARC rebels sit down for a new round of talks in Havana, Cuba. The Colombian government and the FARC guerrillas are discussing reparations for the victims of the 50-year conflict as well as transitional justice. The delegations are focusing on determining the concrete procedures and mechanisms of the reparation process. This 32nd round of talks is set to finish on February 12th. In Ecuador, the province of Pichincha, home of the capital of Quito, has become the first in the country to eradicate extreme poverty. Now, as our correspondent Liz Sherfius reports, it's part of a national plan to bring down poverty levels in Ecuador.
Gladys Kinka grows goldenberries at a plot next to her family home outside of Quito. Previously in the condition of extreme poverty, Gladys received a $500 credit last year to begin her business, now supplying goldenberries to a national supplier. She is one of the 103,000 citizens in the Pichincha province previously categorized as experiencing extreme poverty, earning $44 per month, who has now come out of this condition.
I was not in good economic shape because I was sick. So to start the farm, they told me that I needed a credit. I got a credit and began planting golden berries. I bought everything that I needed to begin this, and the economic conditions of my family and well-being of my children has since improved.
As part of the National Development Goals of Good Living and coordination with the provincial government, the 6.2% poverty rate in 2006 fell to 1.9% in 2014. Through the Human Development Credit and professional training programs, families like that of Gladys now have the necessary support and tools to continue moving forward.
Yo tengo 2,600 plantas.
I have 2,600 plants. I give them to a company called Tierra Fertile. They are the ones who sold us the plants with the idea that we would hand over our product to them. So we have an organic operation which allows us to transport this produce.
Nos garantiza nosotros para poder entregar esta producción allá a Tumbaco.
The Citizens' Revolution has made it a priority to eliminate extreme poverty by 2017. Through its effective cooperation with the national government, Pichincha has been recognized as the first province to meet national poverty reduction goals.
What we see is the reducing of poverty and inequality. We know that this is not due to the patching up of the problem, nor to short-term welfare, but to policies that have effectively made local economies more dynamic, to policies that have generated work, that have created dignified employment.
Through sustainable governmental policies allowing families to independently improve their conditions, Pichincha is setting the standard for the other 23 provinces to effectively work towards eliminating extreme poverty by 2017. Liz Sherfius, teleSUR, Ecuador.
Cuban leader Fidel Castro has appeared in new photographs, once again dispelling rumors of his death. Now, the pictures show Castro meeting the head of Cuba's University Students Federation, Randy Perdomo. According to Perdomo, the leader phoned him for a meeting to talk about world issues. The Caribbean island of St. Lucia's Prime Minister says his cabinet is reviewing the findings of an independent investigation into 12 extrajudicial killings carried out by the police in 2010 and 2011. The killings put St. Lucia in the international human rights spotlight and its police force under heavy scrutiny. Our correspondent Allison Kenches has the story.
George McFarlane is a relative of one of the men shot and killed by police during the crackdown on violent crime in 2010-2011. McFarlane says he believes any family would seek answers in the death of a loved one, regardless of the background of the victims.
Well, I feel fine about that because I really want justice for my brother. I miss my brother badly. If my brother was here, things would be better for me.
The CARICOM Impacts probe will determine whether there was wrongdoing in the 12 police killings. The Prime Minister says his Cabinet of Ministers is reviewing the document and its recommendations.
There is, unfortunately, one matter that must be brought to conclusion in the days ahead. It is the allegations of extrajudicial killings against certain members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
Attorney-at-law and human rights advocate Mary Francis is representing the families of two of the men killed by police in 2011.
At long last, well, there's some relief being expressed by the persons whom I represent, that at least the Prime Minister has informed the nation that they are in receipt of the report finally and that they are considering the implications of the report, because I suppose, yes, there are implications in terms of security and matters of that nature.
The Prime Minister says he will make the findings public sometime this month. Members of the Police Welfare Association say they too are anxiously awaiting the release of the findings, hoping that it will bring closure to this episode and start the process of healing. From Groseley, St. Lucia, Alison Kentish for teleSUR English.
And thanks to Allison. We turn now to Ukraine. That's where violence and fighting continue to escalate. The United Nations has raised the death toll of the conflict to more than 5,300 people. The United States Secretary of State, John Kerry, is set to visit the country on Thursday amid reports that the U.S. is now considering providing weapons to the Ukrainian military.
I am really delighted to be here in Nigeria.
White House spokesperson Josh Ernst has announced that President Barack Obama is determined to further isolate Russia. Ernst told reporters that the U.S. is increasing its efforts to unite the international community in order to press Russia to change its policy towards Ukraine. The United Nations highest court has absolved Croatia and Serbia from genocide charges brought against both countries. Now, the charges date back to the late 1990s. That's when Yugoslavia broke up, leading to a civil war that left more than 130,000 dead. The resolution helps clarify claims of ethnic cleansing and other charges brought at the time against the Serbs. Tensions between Gaza and Israel are growing following new violations of the region's ceasefire. Our correspondent Noor Harazin continues to cover it all.
On Monday, for the second day in a row, Israel violated the agreed Palestinian-Israeli truce, with the Palestinian Fishermen Committee saying that the Israeli Naval Army shot at Palestinian fishermen, despite them fishing inside the permitted limit 6 miles of Gaza's coastline. At the same time, the United Nations Development Programme Special Representative for Demooring visited the El-Shijaiya district in Gaza, which was hardly affected during the Israeli ground invasion on Gaza last summer, where he held a press conference to talk about the lack of funds and rubble removal process.
So basically, we have reasonable funding so far from the rubble removal. The same cannot be said about reconstruction. We are in very, very bad situation regarding funding. We are working together with the government on national consensus in terms of reconstruction, and in particular for the non-refugees, while UNRWA is working with the refugees. And to be honest, the pledges from Cairo has yet to materialize. We have less than 10% of the shelter reconstruction need funded.
In the West Bank, and after a calm week, clashes restarted again between Palestinian protesters and Israeli forces during a Palestinian man's funeral who was shot to death by Israeli forces south of Nablus a day before. The victim, identified as 19-year-old Ahmed al-Najjar, was reported killed after Israeli forces shot at a group of Palestinian youth, accusing them of throwing Molotov cocktails at Israeli settler vehicles. Nuharazin, teleSUR TV, Gaza.
Pro-government Shiite fighters in Iraq have made significant progress in the fight against the Islamic State by retaking the province of Dilaya. Iraqi armed forces are preparing to launch an attack on the city of Mosul further north. Mosul is Iraq's second largest city and fell into control of the Islamic State last year. British researchers have announced that 2 bronze sculptures on display in London were actually made by Michelangelo. No more than a meter high, the 2 statues portray naked men riding panthers. Michelangelo is believed to have made them between his 2 most famous works, the marble sculpture of David and the ceiling of the Vatican Sistine Chapel.
Technical evidence regarding the fracture, 16th century casting.
Over 1 million Hindus have gathered in temples in Malaysia to celebrate Thaipusam, an annual religious festival in which many display their devotion by piercing their bodies with hooks. For 125 years, the festival has centered on the spectacular Batu Caves, which many of the faithful climb for 10 hours to reach. Thaipusam celebrates the triumph of Lord Muruga over the evil Surapadman. Muruga is seen as the granter of wishes. More on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. Hope you have a great day.